Meeting of the New Ulm Public Utilities Commission for the month of September. First item on the agenda is our consent agenda items.
I'll offer the motion to approve the consent items.
I'll second.
Any discussion of the consent agenda items? All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I didn't ask, did you have anything to add to your report?
I do.
Okay. Next is to recognize our employee of the month, who is Patrick Kukla. And before we do that, I just want to recognize that I noticed yesterday received the newsletter and want to share my appreciation for the newsletter. I know that I appreciate the information that's shared every month with our employees, and Patrick's recognition was included in that, which is why it just occurred to me. But go ahead and tell us about Patrick's performance.
Okay. Patrick is the construction chief with the gas department. He continues to show leadership in the gas department through his eagerness and willingness to take on any project he is asked to do, through his suggestions on ways to improve our system. Recently, he was given a job of replacing the 4 valves in our town border station, and this meant shutting off our main gas supply to the city and switching to our standby source from Northern Natural Gas. This was the first time the Hutchinson Interconnect has been down since it was put into service, and Patrick made sure that the switch to standby gas supply went smoothly as not to interrupt the gas flow to the city. He considered all possible maintenance issues at the border station that needed addressing, besides the replacement of the valves, and in hopes that it would be at least another 20 years before this extent of maintenance would be needed. The project was very successful thanks to Patrick's leadership. So congratulations, Patrick Kukla.
I'll make the motion to recognize Patrick Kukla, construction chief with the gas department, as employee of the month for August 2022.
I'll second.
Any discussion of the motion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And we also want to recognize Jamie Schneider this month.
Yes, Jamie Schneider is the operation chief construction with the water department. He has retired after 32 years of service with the New Ulm Public Utilities. Jamie started as a fireman trainee with the electric production department, then went to a boiler trainee, and ultimately to boiler operator. On October 28th of 2002, Jamie then transferred from the electric department to the helper position in the water steam department. And he was promoted to service technician 3 and eventually to lead operator welder. When he retired, he was in the position of an operator chief construction. And so he held this position until his retirement on August 31st, 2022.
I'll offer the resolution and waive the reading commending Jamie Schneider, operational chief construction with the water department for 32 years of service with the New Ulm Public Utilities Commission.
I'll second.
Any discussion of the resolution? Hearing none, we can call the roll.
Commissioner Fingland?
Yes.
Commissioner Hillesheim?
Yes.
And President Heine?
Yes, the resolution passes. Next on the agenda is a presentation by Paul Wessel regarding New Brick.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. I was going to talk about funding today, but it seemed,
Me, Mr. Wessel, I think we might need you to
Want
go
me to
there
start
so
over
that,
there?
yeah, I think
Sure.
it will pick up better on the camera.
okay. There was an issue of funding that I had come, and I come into this late because I've only been with New Brick for 7 months, and there's been history and precedent of PUC funding, partially funding the position that I now hold. It seems that there has been a new look at the statute. I am not a lawyer, so I'm going to defer that to our legal counsel, and perhaps we can take that up at a discussion at City Council or at the EDA. Although I did think it might be helpful if I just share with you who New Brick is and what we're doing, because this is my first time I've talked to the Public Utilities Commission. A little bit of background. I have a summary of my CV if you want it. Long story short, 31 years in factory automation and robotics. And then I started 4 different medical companies. I've taken them from an idea and sold them for multiple millions of dollars. 2003, I was named Inventor of the Year by the state of Minnesota. I've received fellowships from Auckland, New Zealand, and from Detroit, Michigan for my work in medical devices. I know how to build companies, and that's what I'm trying to do here in New Ulm. As I came into the former New Ulm Economic Development Corp., it was a mess. It had been inactive. There had been no cooperation or collaboration, and so we really fundamentally rebuilt the organization. We rebranded it, we called it New Brick, and we set out on 3 pillars of initiatives to build, grow, and sustain New Ulm business. I've looked at New Ulm through my eyes, through the eyes of working for Honeywell, working for multi-million-dollar organizations across the world, and tried to see where we can help. There's a lot of things that are happening broadly in our country, in our state, in our county, where we have worker shortages, where we have daycare shortages, and we're not alone. There's competition and cannibalization of employees from one employer to another. It's really interesting times. How are we going to grow? Do we need to grow? I've said to a number of people in our group and in EDA, one of my concerns, which seems perhaps to go unaddressed, but I don't think there's much we can address at this point, is the consistent decline of Martin Luther College, who are at historically low enrollments. And we know that they contribute close to $20 million a year to New Ulm's economy. What happens if Martin Luther is no longer around? What's our plan? How are we going to offset that amount of money in our community? The same holds true for large corporations like Kraft and 3M, for if we cannot fill their workforce, they have one of 2 choices: to either consolidate or automate. And it is that first initiative that we took hold of, was the automation initiative, where we launched a program called Project Lead the Way, which is a K-12 STEM curriculum, which is now being adopted by all elementary schools and high schools in the New Ulm area. We have already sent 2 teachers through Cathedral, have been certified, Chelsea Mason and Tim Watts. And we had a meeting this last Tuesday with the Project Lead the Way people, where 21 teachers got together to figure out how we can educate our kids and prepare them for the future of our workforce. It's been supported by 3M, it's been supported by Kraft, by Windings. This is an initiative that's important. I keep going back to the fact that if we can't fill jobs, it's a binary decision for a corporation. They're responsible for producing a product. If they can't produce that product, they have one of 2 choices: move it to where they can get manpower, or implement higher levels of automation. And that is what we're focused on, so that we can go back to those corporations and say, look at the students we're producing. They're equipped for higher automation careers in our town. There's some other things, and I don't know how much time I have, but am I okay?
Yeah, you're
Okay.
fine.
Since I started, these are the initiatives that we're doing. One of the other things that I've noticed within New Ulm and Brown County is that they have not pursued federal or state grant funding from the likes of USDA or federal EDA grants. It's a short-term revenue opportunity, but it takes a certain skill set, because it's not just writing the grant, it's managing the grant, writing the outcomes to the grant. And some of these grants, we just finished a $160,000 grant. It was 56 pages long. But this is something that we can focus on and all agree on. The county hasn't done this, the city hasn't done this, And we're doing this. And we can bring along the city and the county as partners. And that's the whole goal of this, is to work together. So, this is our PLTW STEM initiative, the Spark Bus. The Spark Bus is a transportation initiative where we're trying to build a commuter system between Mankato and New Ulm. Every day, there's 358 people leaving New Ulm to go to Mankato, and about the same number leaving Mankato to go to New Ulm. But we need another hub, and that's out to our western suburbs, our western cities, because they need to be connected, and because they're federally classified as economic areas of disaster, there's extra funding available to implement some of these initiatives, but it takes a strategy to do so. The other one is Project Spark, which is our business incubator, where we're going to help young businesses get started. One of them that I've helped is Sweet Haven Tonics, who are now growing, and as we speak, they're meeting with the person who provides alcohol to the Green Bay Packers Stadium in Wisconsin. So it's not just incubating. It's getting a good board of directors. It's writing a good business plan. It's doing a market analysis to see if the person who has the idea about the business is even viable before you begin writing a business plan. We have some growth strategies over here, and I've also been involved in doing some other things. I served as a long-term care technology consultant for the state of Minnesota, and the current status of single-entity nursing homes are becoming more and more rare. So I'm getting Oak Hills involved in several partnerships with larger long-term care and memory care facilities to see if we can broker some partnerships. I'm working on some REAP projects, getting the MLC buildings classified on the historical register. So all in all, we've been pretty busy over the last 7 months. I think New Ulm has a lot of potential. I'm almost 64. I don't have a dog in this fight. I care about this town. And I think we can do some really great things, but we all have to be working together. And I think that we have at New Brick a unique set of skills that others don't have. And I would hope that we could leverage those skills together so that New Ulm benefits. You have any questions? Thanks for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks. Thank you for the information.
So there is not an action other than to receive in our file, right? Yes. Okay. So I will make a motion to receive and order file the presentation from Paul Wessel, CEO and President of New Brick, relating to introducing the group and providing an overview of current activities and their path towards self-sustainability.
I'll second.
Any discussion of the motion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, then we have under new business to approve the Energy Assistance Program agreement with Minnesota Valley Action Council.
Commissioners, this is just the annual renewal of the agreement with MVAC to administer the energy assistance program.
No changes to the agreement?
No.
Okay.
I'll offer the resolution and waive the reading, approving the agreement between New Ulm Public Utilities, Minnesota Valley Action Council, and the Minnesota Department of Commerce to cooperate and deliver the Minnesota Energy Assistance Program for federal fiscal year 2023, October 1st, 2022 to September 30th, 2023, and authorizing the finance director to sign the agreement on behalf of New Ulm Public Utilities.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Go ahead and call the roll.
Commissioner Fingland?
Yes.
Commissioner Hillesheim?
Yes.
President Heine?
Yes. Okay, resolution passed. I don't suppose there's going to be much discussion when the two of you are either going to move or second a motion. But we should follow the rules. All right, Center Street Substation and Fort Ridgely Substation upgrade. Dan?
Yeah, this was a continuation of a project we brought to you in the past from PSC. Their original part was the procurement of the hardware and the design of the setup for it. This would be for ACS, which is our SCADA integrator, to program both that hardware and their SCADA system to be able to talk through their serial interface to their Ethernet fiber to the new Axiom RTU that's from Schweitzer Laboratories. This is just upgrading everything to get us away from that 1996 design into a more current design. And part of what's forcing this is the elimination of copper throughout the city, where everything's going to be on fiber now. And that's why Fort Ridgely suddenly got brought into this project. When we budgeted it last year, we were just planning on doing one, but now we're doing Fort Ridgely also, so we're actually kind of getting a deal on this. We're still under budget for the whole project.
Yeah, so the way I read it, the PSEO portion was 105, and we're adding the additional 19, so that keeps us just under the budget of 135.
Yep.
And I'll offer the motion to receive and order file the proposal from Minsate ACS for engineering and programming services for the remote terminal unit replacement and this at the Center Street and Fort Ridgely substations in the amount of $19,350.
Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next, we need to discuss our energy acquisition adjustment fee.
Good afternoon, President Heine, Commissioners. We are asking for approval on the proposed energy acquisition adjustment to be effective October 22nd. As you know, the EAA is an adjustment to the electrical rate that is calculated to account for the differences between the electrical rates and the actual cost of purchase power and generation fuel. The EAA adjustment using the cost from the 2023 preliminary budget that we're working on right now was preliminarily calculated at 2.287 cents. Staff recommends increasing the EAA adjustment to this 0.02287 as of October 1st, 2022. The current EAA adjustment is at 0.01874, and it is currently not covering our commodity purchases in 2022, and it is not projected to cover the commodity purchases for 2023. And so we are proposing an increase from the 0.01874 to the 0.02287 for October 1, so that we can start to recover some of those 2022 costs and also be proactive in the 2023 costs as well.
So it catches us up and gives us a little cushion going into.
Typically, we do this adjustment in January to take effect on February 1st. But yes, we're asking that we do this a little bit early, just so that we can start to catch up on 2022 and then project out to 2023, which we are also projecting will not, the adjustment will not cover the costs. So just to start catching up on that.
Well, this is part of the recovery of the February gas spike expenses.
Part of it is because back in January, you approved doing a 4-year recovery of those natural gas costs that were allocated to the 69 kV project that was going on during that time. So I believe it was $375,000 of that is included in this calculation as well.
Right. And actually, that was in February 22. That was 21 that we had that big cold.
Right.
And yep.
You know, I think I brought to you in past meetings the increase that we're seeing in the natural gas prices. I think, at one point in August last year, the natural gas prices were, somewhere around $3.80. That same time period in 2022 was upwards of $7, $8. And so the energy acquisition adjustment is calculated just once a year. So it's those prices weren't available back when we did the budget for 2022. We finalized the budget in October. And so what we're seeing is a lack of revenue to cover that. This is a direct pass-through. It's not money that's kept by the utility. It's a direct pass-through from our customers to our supplier to pay those energy bills. And so, we'd like to be proactive and try to recoup what we can this year. And then, we'll be ready for next year's prices. We do this every year, so if prices were to come down, we could potentially reduce that amount as well.
Sure.
I'll approve the proposed energy acquisition adjustment of .02287 to be effective October 1st, 2022.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carries. And now if we want to save money in our natural gas, here's Derek to tell us how.
Right, good evening, everyone. So our conservation improvement program through our gas or electric departments is guided by Minnesota state statutes, and that specific state statute is 216B 2303. And then within that state statute, it's stated that gas suppliers who sell 1 billion cubic feet or more within a year must complete two separate actions. So those two separate actions would be to offer programs to customers, residential and commercial, industrial, in the form of rebates for energy audits or paying for energy audits, furnaces, furnace check and cleans, and what have you. And then the other requirement is to come up with a plan for the following year, or up to 3 years, of what those programs will look like and the budget for those and how much savings those programs will capture. So I went back and I looked all the way from 2006 through 2021, and I put an attachment on to this agenda item, which shows that, pretty much to summarize, that since 2006, under that state statute of selling 1 billion cubic feet or more, we've actually only been required to offer natural gas programs for 3 years since 2006. So all the other years from there, from 2006 to even through this year of 2022, we haven't been required under state statutes to offer programs, but we have voluntarily been doing that. So just some highlights from that, that spreadsheet. There were rebates offered prior to 2006, but I couldn't find solid data to include that in this report. We've recorded over $1.06 million have been spent for natural gas programs since 2006. And under that state statute is also, so there's two components. Anyone that's been on the Energy Awareness Commission knows that there's a savings requirement, there's a spending requirement. The spending requirement actually is kind of being changed and phased out going forward over the next couple of years, but from 2006 to now, there also was a spending requirement. So those 3 years where we were required under state statutes to offer programs, we are only required to spend $113,787. So we've voluntarily have spent and given back at least at the minimum 70 up to close to 90% of that amount is directly going in the customer's pockets. So that's $900 and some thousand that we've voluntarily spent for doing these programs. So the biggest, we can talk about the spreadsheet also, but I'm bringing this to you because, as you can see from this Excel spreadsheet, since 2006, there's only been 3 years where we've been required to actually spend this money. So if we're going to be spending at the minimum of roughly what I've come up with, between $32,000 to $42,000, that should be something that we feel should be approved by the Public Utilities Commission to go forward and continue with these programs. This was brought to the Energy Awareness Commission as well, and they concurred that these programs should still, go forward. And I think it's best for the utility that they continue also, and also the customers, because it's, as you can see, if we get to the point of being close but not over that state mandate, offering programs one year, not offering them the other year is going to confuse people. And then once we hit that point of being required to offer these programs, people may not be aware that they're, they can go after this money. But as you can see, we're on the border of that state statute minimum mandate from selling. In the state statute, it mentions that, 1 billion cubic feet. When I go and I do the calculations, I need to get it in decatherms, and then I need to convert it to MCF when I report it to the state. So these total sales are in MCF. So if you convert that to CF, that 1 million is actually 1 billion. So, but everything is in MCF. M is a Roman numeral for 1,000, so it's 1,000 cubic feet. Then you have baseline, 3-year average. The 3-year average is actually, so for example, in 2019, the 3-year average was 1,019,283. That's what would be used to find out what we actually need to capture for savings that particular year. So 1.5% of your average needs to be captured through the rebates given. So that would be, for that particular year, that would have been 15,264 MCF that needed to be captured from the rebates we give. So, yeah. So I guess the biggest question is to get approval to continue the programs, and the other option would be do we cap the amount that we rebate to customers, or do we just continue to not deny rebates and go over in excess of what if we were required, let's say, how much we should go over that? Because you can see in 2020, we spent $110,482 when we were required to only spend $42,735. So going forward, if there's not a spending requirement, years where we will have to capture the savings, we're going to be spending $100,000 more just to capture the savings than what we actually are required to put into the programs.
So this is one of the more popular programs.
Furnace Check and Clean. So the Furnace Check and Clean, let's say, is probably one of the more popular programs.
So from a,
It's a $25 bill credit, and it captures about 1.79 decatherms.
Okay.
So if I would need to capture 15,264 MCF just on that alone, I'd have to rebate 8,000 some Furnace Check and Cleans at $25. So 200 and some $1,000 I'd have to spend.
right.
So, I mean, it's really hard to capture savings with natural gas to meet that particular part of the state statute. It's really hard.
So where I was going is, with this being one of the more popular programs, from my time on the energy awareness, we were always seemingly shifting from the underspent areas to the overspends.
And this for, like, say this mandate in 2020, this 42,000, that's to spread out just with the natural gas programs. So that's actually supposed to be spread out between the furnace Check and Clean, natural gas water heater. If there's any sort of steam traps, it could be replaced.
Okay.
Those are the ones we offer. You can go after commercial boilers. You can go, you can do insulation. There's other things. It's just, you have popular programs that don't capture much to get to that needed part of the state statute.
Right.
Yeah.
So essentially the recommendation you're looking for, or what you're looking for, is for us to just continue on with what we've been doing and not hold it back for when we don't meet those minimum sales. Correct?
That's one option, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's what the
That's
Energy
what we're
Awareness,
voting on, right? Or that's what
and that's what the
that's the
Energy Awareness
option.
Committee is
recommended.
recommending.
Yeah, so I think the Energy Awareness Committee is recommending that we should continue with the programs available to our customers. And I think staff's thought is they're important programs, they provide energy savings, and it's difficult to administer them one year
Yeah.
and then not administer them.
absolutely.
So, from that standpoint, we believe that they should be continued. The second point is, as Derek's pointing out, we really only, we're close, but if you look from 2006 to today, there was really only 3 times it was necessary to do that. And so you have one of 2 options: to actually cap it at a dollar amount that we think is necessary, or to actually try to hit those savings requirements every year. I think staff's recommendation is to not try to hit those savings requirements every year because it's not necessary, but to still have money that's in those funds available for the furnace check and cleans, that type of thing. If the gas utility at some points gets over that 1 billion cubic feet recommendation, then we would have to relook at this program, and we'd have to probably start looking for things that we could get those savings on to get that dollar amount up. Is that
Right,
a
yeah, I
true
mean, if we
statement?
would go over the 1 billion cubic feet, I would have to budget to capture that savings.
Yeah.
Which is where I said earlier, so all these, we're under the required spending amounts, that's 0.5% of the revenue of the gas, okay? If we need to capture that savings part of the state statute, I will have to for surely spend over and budget $100,000 to $120,000 on top of that $42,000.
Right.
And I'd have to cap furnace check and cleans to a certain point because they bring in the minimal amount of savings that we rebate for. And I'd have to aggressively go after commercial and industrial businesses and boiler, things like that.
Right, so it's really two-pronged. Derek will know because it's based on the previous year. So you would know at budget time that we're required to get over that. We've hit that 1 million or 1 billion. And so there's going to be a budget amount that's going to be significantly higher than what we may do in the years that are off. And so, maybe in those years that the spending requirement isn't required, that those years, the budget would be a smaller amount, in the range of, I think he said, $30,000 to $40,000 for that.
So my theory is I still would use the 0.5% just as a baseline each year, unless we sell over 1 billion cubic feet. Then it'd be based off of the 3-year average and sticking money into those custom rebates and money, in particular accounts to go after to capture that savings.
I'll offer the motion to approve natural gas CIP program funding when the state statute minimum sales requirement is not met.
I'll second.
Any discussion of the motion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Derek. And you're the newsletter guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Thanks. Good job. I'm just on the newsletter today. I'm so excited. All right. Then I think we're at our final agenda item, which is our claims for the month.
I'll make the motion to accept the list of claims paid in the amount of $4,012,086.22.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And unless we have anything else to discuss, we are adjourned.